So now we are going to take a look on how to solve basic trigonometry equations. For the first example, which is example 8, we are given sine theta is equal to 1. What is the value of theta for theta between 0 degree and 360 degrees? So first we need to check the given limit in the question is the limit for the final answer. So our final answer should be between 0 and 360 degrees. For our calculation, we need to check whether our theta in the question, which is sine theta equals to 1, is the same as the one given in the limit. So here we have sine theta, which is 1 cycle for theta. So our calculation will also use the limit from 0 to 360 degree. Next, for the second step, it's easier for you to answer this example by using the graph instead of the reference angle. So we just need to draw the graph of sine for one cycle, and we will get the graph as shown in the diagram, and we need to identify the value for which sine theta will be equal to 1. So now for the third step, we just list all the possible value for theta which satisfies the limit for the calculation. So our theta will be 90 degree, and that is the final answer. Next, we are going to find the value of theta for theta in between negative 360 degree and 360 degrees. So we are going to refer to the same question as before, which is sine theta is equal to 1. And now checking the limit for our final answer, we just take the given limit in the question. But for our calculation, we have to identify given sine theta in one cycle, but now if we refer to our given limit, we have two different parts for the limit. The first one is in the negative part, which is from 0 to negative 360 degree, and the other one is in the positive position, which is from 0 to 360 degrees. So now we just draw our graph for sine theta, but our graph will be in two different positions. The first one in the positive position, the other one is in the negative position. And next is to identify all the possible value for theta. We have two different possible values. The first one is 90 degrees and the second one is negative 270 degrees. So that will be our final answer, which is theta is equal to negative 270 degrees and 90 degrees. Now let's take a look at the exercise. For the first question, we need to solve 2 sine 2x minus 1 equals to 0 for x between 0 and 360 degrees. Before we start solving, what we need to do is rearrange the given equation so that we have sine 2x as a subject. So once we rearrange everything, we will get sine 2x is equal to 1 over 2. And going into our first step, we need to check our limit for the final answer. So we have here x must be between 0 and 360 degrees. Next, to find the limit for our calculation, we need to see that in the equation we have sine 2x, which means 2 cycle, and hence our calculation will include up to 720 degrees. Okay. Next is to determine the quadrant for the angle, and because we have sine 2x is equal to 1 over 2, this is a positive value, so now we know our angle to x should be in the first and the second quadrant. So we just label our alpha there. And next step is to find the reference angle alpha. We just use the formula alpha will be equal to arc sine of 1 over 2. So just calculate this in our calculator and we will get alpha is equal to 30 degrees. Last step is to list all the possible values. We go step by step here. So first we list the possible values for 2x, where we need to go up to 2 full rotation. So the first step here in step 4 is to list 2x, and we will get 2x is equal to 30 degrees, 150 degrees, and then for the second rotation we will have 390 degrees as well as 510 degrees. Next, we just need to identify the question asks us to solve for x, so we need to find x. We just divide all the values by 2 and we will get x is equal to 15 degrees, 75 degrees, 195 degrees as well as 255 degrees. As for the second question, we need to solve sine 2 theta is equal to -1 for theta between -360 degree and 0 degree. So first step is to check our final answer. So the final answer should be between -360 degree as well as 0 degree. And for our calculation, we need to see in the question that given sine 2 theta, so that will involve 2 cycle for our angle, and hence the limit for the calculation will be between -720 degrees and 0 degree. So next is to draw the graph. We just draw the graph for sine 2 theta. Everything will be in the negative part. So we have 2 cycles there, and the value for theta, where we have sine 2 theta is equal to -1, will be -90 degree as well as -450 degrees. So these two values actually give us sine 2 theta is equal to -1. But note that the question asks us for theta. So we just need to divide all the possible values by 2, and hence we will get theta is equal to -45 degree as well as -225 degrees. Next, we need to solve sine x is equal to -0.6125 for x between -180 degrees and 180 degrees. So here, our limit for the final answer will be the limit given in the question. And to find our limit for our calculation, we need to identify we have sine x in the question. So that will be one cycle. But our one cycle will include one in the negative position, the other one is in the positive position. Next is to determine the quadrant for the angle. So sine x is equal to a negative value here. And we know when sine x is equal to a negative value, it should be in the third or the fourth quadrant. So we just label our angle there in the third and the fourth quadrant. And next is we need to find the reference angle. Finding the reference angle alpha will be equal to arcsine of absolute value of -0.6125. We key in the value in the calculator. We just ignore the negative sign, so we will get alpha is equal to 37.77 degrees. Next is to list all the possible value for x within the given limit. So now we have x will be -37.77 degree, and the next one is negative bracket 180 degrees minus 37.77 degrees. So this will give us x is actually equal to -37.77 and -142.23. For the last question, we have sine x plus 60 degree is equal to 0.75, and we need to solve this equation for x between 0 and 360 degrees. So first step is to check the limit for the final answer, and then we need to determine the limit for our calculation. So our new limit for calculation will be x plus 60 degree, the angle given in the question, should be between 60 degrees and 420 degrees. The second step is to determine the quadrant. Since in the question given sine x plus 60 degrees is equal to a positive value, we know that our angle should lie in the first and the second quadrant. So we just draw the angle there, and then the third step is to determine our reference angle. So to find alpha, we will have alpha is equal to arcsine absolute value of 0.75, and hence we are going to get alpha is equal to 48.59 degrees. The last step is to list all the possible values. First, we list the values for x plus 60 degrees. We will have our angle is x plus 60 degree will be equal to 131.41 degrees as well as 408.59 degrees. The first value that I listed there, which is 48.59 degrees, should be excluded because that value is outside the limit for calculation. And then lastly, we need to find x. We just subtract 60 degrees from every possible angle, and we will have x is equal to 71.41 degree and 349.59 degrees.